I finally tested the Forza 2. It is the widest paddle I have ever played, but does it hold up? Does it twist in your hands? Does it work the way it's advertised? Well, let's stay tuned. When I first looked at this paddle, it reminded me of the original Electrum. The Electrum paddle was very much like this shape, wide body. It was flat at the top. It didn't have the hybrid shape on it, but extremely wide paddle and had a really low twist weight. So if you hit out here on the edge, the paddle would move in your hands. This paddle actually is one of the higher twist weights in the market. So when I first picked this up, because it only has a 4 1/8 inch grip, it's a smaller grip with a wide body. So I first picked this up, I'm like, there's no way this paddle is gonna stay stable in your hand when you hit out here on the edges. But out of the paddles that have been measured by the independent testers out there, the 14mm version of this has a 6.99 on the twist weight, and the 16 has a 7.37, which is some of the highest twist weights. And so what this does for us is when the paddle is hit out here on the edge, it's the amount of force it takes to twist the paddle in your hand. So the higher the twist weight, the more stable the paddle is for blocks with the light grip, right? So you're holding the paddle really lightly, the ball comes flying and hits out here on the edge. What happens to the paddle? Well, the lower twist weight paddles, they twist in your hands. This paddle here, because of such a high twist weight, it does not twist in the hands. When you do hit way out here on the edge, and I'm only doing on the side edges because in the tip edge here, it's still in the center of the mass. You're still gonna be fine out here. You're gonna lose a little bit of power on any paddle, any thermoformed unibody paddle. They're going to lose a little bit of control when you hit out on the edges. When I hit way out here, I could feel it. It would just bounce out here. I would lose a lot of power out here, but the ball would still go straight. So it wouldn't just die on the paddle all the way out here, but you would notice that you're hitting way out here on the edges. But with the higher twist weight, it wasn't as cumbersome or problematic as it was on the lower twist weight paddle. I didn't find that that was a problem playing this paddle. I do like the longer handle, so it's a 5.5 inch handle, but you can see from the neck shape here, the neck shape goes up pretty high, so you can really get your hand around it. So it says it's a 5.5 inch handle, but you're able to really get a twoy on here easy. I would say no problem, you got a 6 inch handle here to deal with. And because of the low swing weight, the swing weight is 108 on the 14 and 113 on the 16. That means that it doesn't have a ton of plow through of power that you can generate with the paddle based on the swing weight. Swing weight typically means the mass, the inertia of the paddle moving through the ball, and so the higher the swing weight, typically the more power you can put on it. And so this is right in the mid tiers of the 108 to the 113, right around the same as the double black diamond. Double black diamond's a 114 swing weight, so right around in the same area of that is the swing weight. But does this paddle perform with this shape? Let's check this out.
So I was a little bit skeptical at first when I picked up this paddle, like I said, because of the small handle and wide body. I prefer the longer paddle types, the Invicta shape. But I felt like, if you're looking for a controllable paddle with good spin, that this paddle really fits the bill. I was able to generate decent power, even though it's a low swing weight. I still felt because of the spin, you could be pretty aggressive with your swings, and you would be able to get the ball back to the deep lines. That's the way I kind of gauge this, is that, how much can I get it to the back line? How much work does it take for me to hit those shots? And does the extra power really hurt you in any way? But as you can see, that you can generate a lot of spin with this guy, and like that one really dipped really hard there. I'm not used to paddles that spin quite this much, and that one there shows that I'm used to the Invicta shape. It hit right off the end of the paddle. I did that a couple times, but overall great performance on serves and serve returns.
Right off the bat, I noticed that this paddle had spin. Now, what I tend to do when I'm trying a paddle out is I try to not look at the stats or anything from the paddle from anybody else, no reviews, no nothing, until I play the paddle, because I want my view of the paddle based on my experience. I've been doing this 7 years now. I've played hundreds of paddles, and I want to see what it feels like compared to the other ones that I've touched. And so I don't really play this body type very often, but as you can see on the serves and the serve returns, I was able to generate plenty of spin. In fact, these paddles, the 14mm and the 16mm, are some of the higher paddles tested. So the 14mm is like in the 90 percentile as far as paddles tested, and the 16mm is actually in the high 2300s, which is one of the highest paddles tested. So it's in the 98 percentile in spin. So this is one of the most spinny paddles that have been tested by the independent testers. And I could really tell, boy, my drives, my serves, My serves and my returns, I could really put spin on it, and you could see the ball just dip onto the back line. Now, I would say out of all the thermoform paddles I've played, that this is a very controllable thermoform paddle. I had no problems doing the drops, so if you're looking for a paddle that can do drops for you, get you into the kitchen and put top spin drops. So that's the other thing, is like when you play with a high spinning paddle, you can really put top spin on your drops and really make the ball jump when it hits the kitchen line. So I found that doing the drops with this paddle was no problem for whatsoever. I was able to just pick it up and play. Very first game, I was already hitting the kitchen. I wasn't missing a whole lot of shots to get used to the paddle, and I found that the paddle really performed in that area, especially with the spin.
I think as you get used to this body shape here, like once again, I got caught with that Invicta shape is in my head, you know, more of a longer paddle, and so I missed some off the end here, but felt like I was able to do whatever I wanted once I got used to this shape. So those of you that like this shape and like the control that it offers, you'll have no problem with your drops and your resets. It took me a little bit to get used to it just because I'm not used to this body shape, but I found that my wrists were able to snap through a little bit more. My hands felt faster. So if you're looking for a paddle that will give you, increased hand speed at the net, I think because of the smaller handle, the angles were a little bit different for me because it's a very good hexagon type feeling handle, but it's only a 4 1/4. And that one right there, because I'm playing a 14, I was holding the paddle too light, and the paddle twisted in my hand a bit.
So yeah, I really liked it on the drop shots. What about the punch volleys and the power or the speed at the net? Really what we want to talk about is how is this paddle defensively when we play it? That's the only knock that I would ever had on this paddle before I played it was, hey, when I'm doing a punch volley or getting hit at and I'm just doing a reset, how does this paddle perform when I'm trying to do the power and the pop from no man's land or at the kitchen when I'm trying to counter punch? Does it perform there? Let's see.
So typically when you get a low swing weight paddle, that was a good drop, you typically don't get a lot of power off of these guys, but I found that because of the wide body, but the high twist weight, it's really a solid paddle, and I found myself starting to be more aggressive with it than I typically am with a low swing weight paddle. This did not feel like it had such a low swing weight. I was really able to apply pressure. And so if you're looking for a paddle that allows you to have kind of the best of both worlds, meaning it's really fast in the hands, really light on the swing weight, you can always add lead tape to the edges if you even want to make it even more swing weight there and give yourself a little bit more pop. But as you can see from some of these shots, I was really able to generate the power with this thing. So it was very surprising to me that this lightest swing weight paddle, especially with the wide body, that it just really surprised me, the stability. Yes! You can see some of these fast hands battles I was winning because the paddle was so fast, but I was able to get pop-ups and generate pressure from anywhere on the court. So if you're looking for a paddle that can do that and help you out and still be fast without you losing that speed, this paddle will really work for you.
Now I did notice that if I was holding the paddle really lightly, I was playing the 14 millimeter, holding the paddle really lightly, it has a lower twist weight, but I could still tell when I hit way out here on the edge. But because it's such a wide paddle, you're really getting your hands on a lot of balls because it has a lot of surface mass here for you to, it feels like you got a lot of coverage defensively here. But the 14 millimeter did twist a little bit in my hands when I hit way out here, but I didn't find it was so disturbing that I couldn't hit the ball. So really felt that this paddle moved well, like really fast hands at the kitchen because of the way it's shaped. It just feels like it moves through the air really well. I know that could just be mental, but it feels like it's better, it's faster than the elongated paddles, and the spin and the stats would support that theory. But how does it perform in the kitchen? How does it perform when we're dinking?
So as I was playing this paddle and getting used to the angles, a few of the times I was popping it up like there, I was kind of popping it up because it actually was a little bit faster than I thought it would be in the kitchen line. Like I had said earlier, it just had a little bit more pop than I thought it would be for such a low swing weight. And it's got to be because the twist weight is so high, but it was able to really start dialing it in. So if you're looking for a control-oriented paddle that has more spin and more pop than it's supposed to at this swing weight, I think this is a good choice for you if you like this body shape because it just is so stable. But the spin that it gives you and the ability for you to counter like I just did there and be able to get into the kitchen and still be able to control your dinks and put pressure on your opponent. This paddle really performed well there. I was able to get some setups for my partners and the dinks and able to put pressure on my opponents pretty easily with it.
So as you can see from there, the dinking, I had no problems with the dinking. I was able to really put the ball where I wanted to, and this paddle really performed well. Now, I am not a paddle shape of this type. I don't like this paddle shape. It's not my preference. I prefer an elongated paddle. I like the extra reach, but I found that once I started playing with this, I didn't mind it. Like, I didn't even start thinking about the shape. I wasn't missing shots out on the end going, oh man, I missed that extra ½ inch. I know it sounds stupid, but you get like a half to 3/4 inch more out of the elongated paddles. And you know, a lot of times you're catching it out here on the end, so why would you want the extra length? This one here makes you get close to your work. And I wouldn't just normally just pick this paddle up because I don't really like the wide body shape. That's not my preferred playing style. But this paddle performed well in all the metrics. I had no problems doing any shot I wanted, and I think if you're looking for a paddle that actually gives you the high spin rate, that's why this thing really stood out to me. And many people noticed that I don't hit high spin. I'm not a high spinner of the ball, but people noticed when I played this paddle saying, man, you're able to generate a lot of power and a lot of spin with that paddle. And I think it's true. I was able to really put some good top spin on this. Slices were ridiculous with it. So really with the high spin, I really liked this paddle's performance. So this paddle retails for $180. With our pirate discount, you get 10% off. And I just want to thank you for those of you that are using our code. That helps us keep the lights on, helps us keep bringing you these reviews so you can make quality choices in your paddle purchases. And thank you, Volair, for sending us this paddle to review. Good job on the paddle. Good work that you're doing here with these paddles. I appreciate it. If you don't like this body style or you want to see another brand, check these out. Oh, they're good. They're real good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.